All right, time for a midday market recap by Warrior Trading. So we're going to go over the gap scan from this morning and trades from the morning. Each day I focus on being a momentum trader. That's my focus. So what I need to do first thing out of the gates and before the market even opens, during the pre-market session is look for the stocks that are already moving with pre-market volume. So I use Trade Ideas scanners, and we'll go and do a back test scan here at 9:15 a.m. All right, so this is what the market was looking like to me this morning at 9:15. All right, so I could see on my gap scan I had TBIO up at the top, PSUN down at the bottom. All right, and tons of stocks in between. Under this column here, float, you can see the outstanding float. That's the number of shares available to trade in the open market. So a stock with 8.85 million shares available to trade has a much lower supply than a stock with 224 million shares. So what we know, just simple supply and demand, when there's a reduced supply and a lot of demand, the price will go up very quickly. Now, that's why I don't trade stocks that have 200 million share floats very often. ALTR is one of them. This one's here. If we look at a stock, some of the bigger financial stocks, for instance, Bank of America, we'll pull up the single stock window. Let's look at GM, General Motors. That has a 1.4 billion share float. There's 1.4 billion shares available to trade. So when that's the supply, it takes a tremendous amount of demand in order to get this stock moving. So typically you don't see very big days, and the average true range on this stock, the average range on a typical day is fairly low, 50, 60 cents. All right, and it's a $30 stock. Now another stock, let's look at FireEye. FireEye has a 137 million share float. So the float is definitely lower than General Motors, a little higher than some of the stocks that we like. $46 price range, and the average range on a typical day is $1.60. So on an average day, this will move up or down $1.60. So it's got a lot more range than General Motors. Now go back the other way. Bank of America, 10 billion share float. Again, a tremendous amount of supply. The average range is only 22 cents on a given day. So we don't want to trade stocks that have a very small range, because catching the top and bottom of every move is almost impossible. Right? We look for stocks that are going to move, and we try to find a little window of profitability inside the move. So if the move is 80 cents and we can capture 40 cents of profit, we've done a good job. Right? So we need stocks that have a larger range. That means we need to find stocks that either have a tremendously strong catalyst. Bank of America would need an amazing catalyst to move a lot. Or what's easier is to find stocks that have a very reduced supply. So that means scanning for low float stocks. All right, so if we go back to the gap scan here, where'd it go? All right, so we'll go back to the gap scan here. I'm looking for the float. That's one of the first things I look at. All right, so here we've got float, and I list in yellow 4.48 million shares. So this is a very, very low float. 4 million share float is very low. All right, now anything above 100 I have labeled in white because I really don't care too much about it if it's over 100. I like float range under 20 million shares. All right, so the further down we get, the more green we get until we finally go to yellow. So that's the float column right there. But I'm sorting these by percentage gap. All right, so this is how much we're gapping up or gapping down. Alternatively, you can sort by the amount of volume. So if I double click that column, this will be sorting by how much volume we've got pre-market. That's helpful because that tells us where there's already interest pre-market, but I usually prefer to look at the biggest percentage gainers and then check the news. I want to be trading the stocks that are super obvious as being the stocks in play. All right, so this is the new jungle gym on the playground, and I want to be all over it, right? I'm not going to go hang out on the seesaw that's been around since like 1950. I want to be hanging out at the new jungle gym, all right? And that's what these stocks are. They're the new stock each day that's in play. And that's all I do. I look for the momentum names, the stocks that are going to be in play. So OHGI, this one we traded yesterday. All right, I bought this at 270, and then it spiked up from 270 up to 584. I mean, it went up 100%. It was amazing. was one of the best trades that we've ever had in the room. It was ridiculous. But here's the thing. Now, I don't care about it anymore. Yesterday, it was gapping up with a catalyst. It was in play. A couple days ago, it was gapping up with a catalyst. It was in play. And way back here, it was gapping up. It was in play. All right, so we'll trade this a couple times a year. You know, when it has a big gap, it's in play. And the rest of the year, we don't care about it. So today, TBIO is the stock in play, right? Gapping up, lots of volume. So if you look at a daily chart for any stock, and let's just throw some out. Let's see, JRJC. All right. The days with big volume would be the days that we would trade it. LAKE, Lakeland Industries. The days with big volume are the days we would trade it, and the rest of the time we don't care. And this is not just low price stocks, it's also higher price stocks. Herbalife, big volume, those are days we trade it. All right, so I don't have a master watch list of maybe my 10 favorite stocks. I trade different stocks almost every day based on where the momentum is in the market. So as day traders, we profit from volatility, right? We profit when stocks move. If stocks aren't moving, we're not making money. So we know we need to find stocks moving. That means we have to find a reason for stocks to move, right? Stocks will trend with the overall market, but we don't want to trade the overall market because that's just, it's choppy. That's not what we're doing as day traders. So we're looking for the catalyst, the news source. But this is kind of, what do you look for first? The news or the stock moving? I look for the stock that's moving first, right? And that tells me that the news is real, because you can have breaking news and no one cares about it. Even though it's news, it may not be relevant to traders. And I don't always know what will or will not react, well in the market. So I look for the stocks that are moving. Then I go search the news. I'll use StockTwits, Twitter. I throw it out in the chat room, see if anyone else has heard of the news. I'll check Benzinga, check a few sources, figure out what the news is, what's the catalyst, and then start to look at, all right, well, can we take a trade on this? So TBIO. All right, now this one, pull this up here. So this is our 5-minute chart. Now, pre-market, this looked really good, and I said I like it long over 292. The problem is right out of the gates, or before the market even opened, we squeezed all the way up to 229. All right, and actually it might have gone a little higher than that. No, it went, yeah. So the high was 229 pre-market. So I said, all right, well, this is tough because this is already broken out a lot. Maybe in hindsight, we could have bought this pre-market off the pullback, but I typically don't trade pre-market, even though this had a good amount of volume. You can see 800,000 shares. Getting in and out pre-market, you can have bigger spreads. You can have a lot more slippage. So it can be a little riskier. So instead, I wait for the bell to ring. And you know what? That's what a lot of people do also. Bell rings, first 5 minutes, we've got 3.7 million shares of volume. And that puts all the pre-market volume basically in a shadow. I mean, we seem to have volume here, but once the market opens, the real volume comes in. All right, so I said I like this long over 330. $3.30, that's the pre-market high, so I like it long over 330. Market opens, and I jump in at 330. All right, we get a quick pop on this. Let me go in the 1-minute chart. Okay, so we get a quick pop up to 344, so that was a good scalp for 14 cents. Comes back down, all right, then comes back up, and I say, all right, well, I like it over 44. It breaks 44, taps 50, taps 54, and then it just can't really, do much. So it starts to pull back a little bit. And I said, all right, well, this thing is a little bit choppy, but let's give it another chance over 350. All right, so over 350, I got back in. That was after a little bit of a pullback. Right here, I got back in on this candle that's starting to form, 350. We pop up, and now this was really a pretty dramatic candle. Now, I'm actually going to flip this down to let's do a 5-second chart. Just to show you what happened on this. Let's go back. This is a little unusual, the move that it did. I'm going to go back a little further. But basically, we came up, we broke that high of 350, got in, and then it ripped all the way down to, I think it was 321, and then came right back up. Where was that? It's like a big blip, and I'm not sure what caused it, but there we go. Now you can see it. That little guy. That little guy was, that's the spot where I was like, this is all of a sudden my Friday is looking really ugly because I'm in this with 2,000 shares, looking for the break of 350. So I got in right down here. We pop up, we break 350, we pull back for a second, and then boom, down to 321, and then right back up. So when that happened, I said, I'm getting out of this thing. I'm done. This is I don't trust it. So I got out. So I only made about $200 on IBIO this morning. And this little guy really, you never like to see those. Why that happened, I'm not sure. I don't know if someone market ordered a 50,000 share position or what it was, but market makers moved out of the way, dropped it down, and it popped right back up. Now, if you had a stop at 335 or 320, you would have gotten 325. You would have gotten taken out, stopped out, and then right back up. And that's the reason I don't use stops. On the other hand, there are times where something like this could continue to drop, and you do just want to get out. But with slippage, even if your stop was 340, you would have gotten filled way down here. So that was a little bit of a scary moment on that one. I'm not sure what caused that, but in any case, that was our first mover of the day. Now the other was DCTH. I said on DCTH, we'll switch back to the 1 minute chart. I said, all right, guys, I like this long over 144 pre-market. All right, so we've got the pre-market high of 144. Now I'm trading TBIO. So right when the market opens, I wasn't able to get in at 144, but 144 was the spot I was watching. So I'd be in at 144. Stop would be usually the low of this little pullback here, pre-market pullback 134. And this made a nice move up to 192. Really, really nice. Unfortunately, it didn't pull back before the move. The only entry was 144. Missed it. It ran without me. That's fine. I'm not going to chase it. Right? I'm not going to be impulsive and chase these runners. I got to get a pullback. So I said right here, I like it on the pullback. And now we're just kind of pulling back too much. Right? That's no good. So I liked it in this area here before we started to break down that much. At this point, it's really done. So no trades on DCH, DCTH. ESI, this was the other one that was a low float momentum stock. Not on the gap scan that I noticed. No, I don't think it was on the gap scan. We'll go back to this one. So this was on the high a day momentum scanner. If I go history, time frame, and this morning or yesterday morning is fine. You can see this was on our gap scan, which is always streaming in the room here. So it was on as early as 9:40. All right, so 9:40 is right here. Okay, so that pops up on the high a day momentum scanner. We don't have anything on this scanner except for stocks that are low float. So this is a scanner specifically looking for low float momentum stocks. The best opportunity to get into this one would have been the first pullback right here, long at 320, and just trail and scale out up to the high here of 384. We got a pullback, and again, this is a pretty sharp pullback. Now, when you have a stock that makes a parabolic move, the first pullback a lot of times is just where shorts pile in because it got too extended. So that can kind of mess up any flag pattern. And then when you go and look at the 5 minute, you usually end up having like a big doji up at the top or this kind of big ugly flag because of that red candle. We got way too far up, came way back down. And then at this point here where you are thinking, well, is it going to go back up? Your stop is like 30 cents away, which isn't bad except for the fact that at this time of day, I had very light volume. So you can see here on the volume scan, when it first popped up, it only had 300,000 shares of volume. By 9:50, it was up closer to, let's see, 600,000 shares, but still fairly light volume. So I wasn't sure if this was just going to pop and fade kind of the way the others were, but it actually did end up getting the momentum and moving back up. So overall, not a bad way to finish the week with a couple good trades on TBIO. This month has been a little bit slow. I mean, we've had some good movers in the last week, maybe the last 2 weeks, but overall, it hasn't been the most, like, I don't know. There hasn't been a lot of really fun trades this month. It's only been one or two good ones a week. So at this point, just kind of grinding on lower numbers. My profits for May were well below what I was aiming for, but I had a 71% success rate, and that level of consistency is something that does make me feel really good. Even if the wins were not as big, the consistency was good. And my focus this month was trading smaller size because the end of April was a little bit choppy as well. So my average share size about a month ago was closer to 4,000 shares, and this month it was closer to 2,000. So smaller share size means smaller profits, but reduced risk. And it's important to know when to dial down the risk and be able to adapt to the market. All right, so I hope everyone has a great weekend. We'll be back at it first thing on Monday. Monday we'll be doing a free chat day, so friends and family, everyone's welcome to stop by Warrior Trading and check out the room and take part in some of the trades. All right, thanks guys. Enjoy the weekend.